Well, hello. Looks like we got a few people here already. That's good. Well, we're going to get started anyway because we got a lot to get through. Thank you for coming. We're glad that you come here to learn about how to budget happy. I'm Nigel Bloomfield, and Laura is going to be here in just a few minutes. We had one of our kids make it further than they ever have in a dance competition this morning. So she'll be here. She's on her way right now. So we're a nonprofit dedicated to making budgeting a happier experience, and I hope that we can do that in this class today. As a quick thank you, we're grateful to Meta for the grant that they gave us. We wouldn't be able to have this class right now without their support. They actually do a lot to support nonprofits right here in Eagle Mountain, Utah, and we're grateful for their support. Oh, I should ask, can you guys hear me? That I always forget to do that at the beginning. If you can do an emoji or something in the chat, just let me know if you can hear me. That would be helpful. Thanks, Mel. That works. Okay, I also want to note that we're going to be using the polls and the chats and the reactions today, just like Mel just did. So the reactions, the one that Mel just did, that shows up as that smiley face that's down in the bottom middle. If you click that, then this whole bar will open up and you can see all those different options there. Let's see, if you're on a phone, it's going to be the three dots on the very bottom right corner. You click those and then they show up at the top there. And then the polls are in the bottom right corner if you're on a desktop. It's those three shapes in the corner there. If you click on those, then the polls show up. And we don't have any open right now, but we'll open those up in just a little bit. And if you're on a phone, you're going to click those three dots in the very bottom right corner. And then you'll find something called activities. I don't know if it has that shape, but it's called activities, and then the polls will show up in there. And then the chat is for everything else. That's the text message bubble thing there in the bottom right corner if you're on a desktop. If you're on a phone, again, it's those three dots in the very bottom right corner, and it's called in-call messages. It seems like a weird name to me, but that's what they called it. So don't wait. If you have anything to ask, you can ask it as we're going through. That's okay. We'll answer it when we can. And also, just one last thing, in order to get set up, in order to see us best, you'll need to change your layout settings a little bit so that it's on Spotlight. So if you're on a desktop, it's those three little dots kind of in the middle. And then you click that and it'll go to change layout and then select Spotlight. And that should put us taking up most of your screen so you can see the slides and us at the same time. And then on a phone, you'll need to find our little video image right now. And there's three dots on our little image there. And if you click that and select full screen, and that should make it so that we take up most of the screen and you can see everything, like I said. Okay, so to start off, we'd like you to put in the chat. We're going to see if you guys can find that one. Put in the chat what kind of budgeting processes you've tried or that you're currently using. So we'll see if you can find the chat. You made it.
I made it.
So yeah, any kind of budgeting process. Great. Jason, you've used an Excel spreadsheet. That's been really common. I've been surprised to hear that one so much. But I like using Excel too, so that works. That's good. Yeah.
Too complicated.
Yeah. That happens a lot. It's easy to make things too complicated. That seems to be what a lot of them do well. You've never used a budget, you need to. Yes, that's that's also fairly common too. It's one of those things you hope you can just ignore and not have to pay attention to. Yeah, the next one.
You can do the next question. I'll start at this.
Okay. And also, if you can in the chat again, if you've got a budget that you're actively using right now, put it in there. And then how long have you used that? So Peter, yours would be 0. That's okay. But Mel, Jason, are you using one right now? Celine?
Never used a budget.
Okay.
You guys are here. That's awesome.
Yeah, that's a good start. I can understand wanting to avoid budgeting for as long as possible.
All right, now looking to restart. Awesome.
Nice. Good. So yeah, you guys are all in the right place. This is good.
Yeah, so we've tried lots of different budgets.
Yep.
Lots of different, Jason, what did you got? Got organize our expense on spreadsheet, generally stinking budgets, right? This is the same thing with us. We've tried so many different ways and we just kept failing time and time again for one reason or another. Like you said, it either takes too much time or they're too complicated, they're too hard to stick to, lots of different reasons, right? So hopefully you've read the story that we sent you about the Happy Giraffe. If not, that's okay. But we're going to be using the story as the basis of our discussion today. Awesome, Peter. So I know it's written like a children's story, but it's a representation of our own story and kind of the struggle that we went through while learning how to budget. Like I said, we tried lots of different ways and found lots of ways to fail. So sounds like that's been your similar experience for some of you. So we totally feel your pain. And luckily, we figured out something that works really well and helped us feel confident and even happy about our money.
Yeah, so just a side note, you'll hear that word happy many more times as we talk about this, because I really believe that budgeting well can help you find more happiness in your life.
Yeah. And the reality is that most of us weren't taught how to budget well. And you kind of proved in your comments a minute ago that we've all tried things, but they just don't seem to work. And we don't feel like those failings are your fault. We feel like that's the process's fault. So using, maybe I think we can probably guess what you'll use, but using the reactions, show us how you feel about budgeting. Those little, yeah, there you go, Mel.
Yep, the sad, that's questioning.
Confused, sad, super sad.
Got the explosion ones.
Yeah. So we are hoping, because we know that budgets are important, right? And they're necessary. So we are hoping that through this meeting, we can get you from those emojis, those feelings, to at least tolerating a spreadsheet or a budget, but hopefully we can get you all the way to happy with your budget.
Yeah. So really quick, I do want to tell you what this class is not. It's not a list of life hacks or suggestions about how to save money or how you should or should not spend your money. None of that is actually helpful. That's why a lot of these budgets you've probably tried have failed, and it's not going to make you happy.
Yeah, so we don't get to tell you what to spend your money on, because happiness looks different for you than it does for me. It's a personal choice. We spent over $1,000 at McDonald's one year when we actually had a really tight budget. We were barely scraping by, but that was our choice because we had little kids and I was exhausted. We had a baby that cried if she was at home. So that was where we could go. And that was our choice. Not a great choice, but it was our choice. And we stayed on budget that whole time. And luckily, McDonald's at that time made us happy, but now we are able to avoid going there, and we have found other things that we enjoy. So as we learn how to budget, just know that I'm not going to judge you for what you want to spend your money on. Neither is Nigel.
Yep. Pickleball is one of the things we choose now.
So, okay, so let's talk about what a budget is and what it should be. So the definition from dictionary.com says that it's an estimate of expected income and expenses for a given period in the future. And Nigel added, created so that you don't spend more than you earn. He added that part so that you can see what it is, but then also why it exists. So with this definition, a budget is super simple. It doesn't need to be complicated and overwhelming. It doesn't need to include your whole investment portfolio or expensive apps or coupon clipping or cute printables from the internet or even 100 different categories to track and create this amazing history of everything you've ever purchased. In fact, if somebody tells you that your budget needs those things, they're probably just trying to sell you something. So really, a budget is just looking ahead, coming up with an estimate of your income, and then an estimate of your expenses. And it only exists to help you see that future more clearly so that you don't spend more than you earn. And that's it. So 2 years from now, the only thing you'll have left from budgeting well is the fact that you haven't spent more than you earned. And also the piece that comes from knowing that you're doing okay financially, which is totally worth it. So hopefully that definition removes some of that weight and expectation that you're putting on your budget, but also maybe that expectation that you're putting on yourself as well. So before we jump into creating our budget, we're going to follow the story of our Happy Giraffe, and we're going to talk about some of the principles of that story, because we feel like the journey is important to understand and think about first.
Okay, so we're going to go to our first poll question. So that's, again, if you're on a desktop, it's the bottom right corner. It's those little shapes down there. Let me go turn it on so you guys can see it. That'll help. Launch. There we go. Okay, so what was the first animal the giraffe encountered? And also, just so you know, you have to click your answer, and then you have to scroll down a little bit more and click vote. Apparently, it's a two-step process. It makes it a little harder, but yeah, we've got the jay, the elephant, the chipmunk, the lion. Which one did the giraffe encounter first?
And you're welcome to guess on any of these.
Yes, you can totally guess.
It's just for fun.
Yep, you're not getting graded.
In fact, we don't know who voted for what, so.
Nope. Yeah, I got 3 for the elephant. Elephant there. 1 for the jay. Okay, we're going to end it in 3, 2, 1. Nice.
Okay. So yes, the elephant was the correct answer. In the story, we have a giraffe. Are you switching slides? Or no?
Oh, there it is.
There we go. In the story, we have a giraffe who is learning how to balance spending money while having a limited income. And he does that with his leaves, right? His leaves are kind of his money. And the first time through, he fails horribly. But then an elephant comes along and he gets some advice from him. And elephants, as we know, never forget a thing, right? So they're good at tracking everything. And he tells a giraffe that he needs to be better at writing everything down. So you can raise your hand if you want, but how many of us have done that? How many have attempted to start a new budget by writing down everything you've spent for the past month?
Yeah, no, done that. Yep, Peter.
Yep.
Brian's tried that too. Yep.
Yeah, a lot of us start that way. We're told to start that way. And of course, we're not against tracking. Tracking is definitely important, and it's required in all budgets, but it's not the right place to start. Mm-hmm. So all of us, I'm sure, can easily spend more than we earn in a month, right? We know we can spend more. We don't need a month of overspending to prove that we need a budget right now. The guilt that led you to sit down and budget in the first place tells me you know you were spending too much. Or the other problem with starting with the process that way is you can be like my family and say, well, the diet starts Monday. So then Sunday night, they're taking that extra piece of cake because they got to get the calories in before they count, right? We got to get the spending in before our financial diet starts. So it kind of starts you off in a worse place, actually. So why doesn't the elephant's plan work? Well, as mentioned earlier, part of the definition of a budget is that it is forward-looking. So having a month-long history isn't important in order to start making a budget. When you look forward, you should start with estimating your income before you look at your expenses. We call that having an income first mentality. So basically all that means is that the first step in my budget is to figure out how much I have to work with. And then we look at what we want to spend that money on. And that order matters because what I want can't be the baseline for my budget. It has to start with what I have. Hopefully that makes sense. So when you start a budget by looking at what you have already spent in the past or what you want to spend, that's what we call a spend first mentality. You're saying, here's what I want to spend. How do I make that work? That's what happens when the car salesman says, let's get you into a car you want, and then we'll figure out the payment that will work for you, right? Spend first mentality is backwards. And you end up buying a way overpriced minivan covered in dog hair that will break down before you ever get it paid off because you looked at the monthly bill rather than the big picture. Obviously, that is from personal experience right there. So once I want something, I spend more than I have. Exactly, right? Super good at spending more than we make. So I know we said we wouldn't be sharing life hacks in this, but here's one anyway. You will never find happiness if you focus on what you want first or focus on what you want to buy. Not financial happiness, not any type of happiness. If we focus first on what we have, instead of what we want, that's where we can find that happiness. So we learned from the elephant that tracking is important, and we will put that in our tool belt. We definitely want to use that, but our budget needs to start with how much income we have to work with. So that's income first mentality.
Okay, so we're going to go to the second poll question. Let me turn that on in there. Gotta find it. Launch. There we go. Okay, so what did the lion tell the giraffe to do?
Oh, I like that quote, Brian.
Yeah, if you have any questions so far, the poll is you can just ask the questions in the chat too. It's a good pause in our talking. But yeah, what did the lion tell the giraffe to do? There was save money, ask for a raise, join an MLM, or track expenses better.
How do we access the poll?
So it should be if you're on a desktop, it's on the right corner. It's the little shapes down there. If you click on that, and then there should be a poll. If you're on a phone, I think it's the 3 little dots on the very bottom right.
And then it's under activities.
Yeah, activities. That's what it is.
So yeah, there's like a triangle, square, circle.
Okay, so we got join an MLM, track expenses better, save money, good ideas. Okay, we're going to end it in 3, 2, 1. There we go.
Okay. So, our lion was the correct answer, and he has the answer that everyone hopes for and wants to hear. Just make more money and all your problems go away, right? Please don't fall into this trap. Actually, I should rephrase that. You will probably fall into this trap, but when you do, please have the courage and the humility to notice it and admit that it's not your money situation that needs to change. It's you. That sounds mean. I apologize, but it's just a change in perspective that will help you take control to stop being the victim. We're taking something that's outside our ability control to control, which is more money, and changing it into something that you can control, which is your spending. And I know that there are people who are struggling to afford the basic necessities. And so if that's you, this advice is not directed at you, of course. But I will say that most of us think that we're in that category and that we need more money to fix everything, but we really don't. What we really need is to learn to live within the income that we have. And I know it's not easy and it's not always fun, but for most of us, it is doable. So hoping that more money will fix everything is such a big temptation. It goes back to that spend first way of thinking, right? It's saying, here's what I want. Now I got to figure out how to make it happen. I don't want any limitations. I don't want to have to choose. I want everything. But Willy Wonka taught us best what happens when we want everything. We go down the garbage chute with Veruca Salt. Honestly, I wish we all made more money. I wish we didn't have to choose. I wish it could be that easy, but it isn't. And more money isn't the answer, especially easy, quick money. Trying to get rich quick is not going to solve any of your problems. So until you admit that, you're going to be stuck and you will always be the victim and you will always be taken advantage of, which makes life kind of hard. So you won't see meaningful change in your life until you stop blaming your income. And again, we're taking something that is outside our ability to control, which is more money, and changing it into something that you can control, which is your spending. So when you change that perspective, you can feel empowered, you feel in control, and you begin finding gratitude, which is a great way to find happiness, like Brian's quote up there. And you can do that within whatever limitations you have in your life. So that's what we learned from the giraffe's failure with the lion, is what you have right now is probably enough.
Yeah. So we're going to go to the next poll. Let me go in and turn that on. Scroll down here. Launch. There we go. Okay, what was the chipmunk's easy savings plan? We've got fill in a crafty printed chart, save $1 today, $2 tomorrow, save all your change in a jar, and clip coupons. These are all ideas that we found pretty common online. Nice. Okay, close it off in 3, 2, 1. There we go.
Okay. So our chipmunk, her idea was to save the $1 today, $2 tomorrow, but it could have been any one of those, right?
Yeah.
Essentially, her plan was to save or spend less and save more. You've probably seen some of these ideas or cute printables or whatever. And it's wonderful that you want to save money. And we agree that saving is important, but it's not a budget. They're not the same thing. And that saved money has to come from somewhere.
Yeah. So you might have seen commercials or even like financial influencers on social media that talk about how they got on a budget, they started saving, and they paid off a ton of debt. And that is great for them. But did you know that in order to pay off $200,000 of debt in 6 months, it means you had to have made more than $200,000 in 6 months. So they didn't pay off their debt just because they started budgeting well. They paid it off because they made money on their social media platform, selling advice and getting viewers and sponsorships.
Yeah. So for most of us, saving and paying off debt is going to be a slow process. And that's okay. You can't save or pay off more than you earn. And in reality, it's probably going to be a very small piece of what you earn that can go towards those things, because you still have to live day to day. So it's normal for those goals to take years instead of months. But we also want you to stop feeling guilty every time you spend money. You have to spend money to live, and we want you to spend money. So savings is important, but it's not the only reason that you make money. It's okay to spend some of it on the things that make you happy right now. You have to just find that balance. So from the chipmunk, we learned that saving and paying off debt are important, but we also need to remember that it takes time and it's not the only thing that matters.
Yeah. Okay, so we're going to go to our next poll question. Yeah, and I got to find it and turn it on there. There it goes. Okay, so why is the J the animal that represents the envelope system? So this one was not in the book. You're not going to know this one just because you read the chapter we gave you. But yeah, they store caches of seeds and nuts. They're smartest of all the birds. We have a relative named Jay, or they work together as a group.
Which we do have a relative named Jay.
We do.
He actually drew the pictures for the book. So
he did. But that's not why we named it after that.
Yeah, spoiler alert.
Nice. Okay, 3, 2, 1. Oh, good. We got a fifth one in there.
5. Nice.
Nice.
Okay, so each animal really was chosen for a reason. And the J was because these birds store seeds and nuts to retrieve later. So good job guessing that one. They will travel up to 2.5 miles from their original location, which, man, that just seems like a whole lot of work to me. But our J brings something that the other animals haven't given us yet. This is the first time that we actually see a real budget. This is that typical budgeting method that most of us have heard of and tried. It's the same basic idea that your grandparents probably used. It just looks forward 1 month, considers your income and expenses, and tries to stop you from spending more than you earn. So it does check off all those boxes on what a budget is supposed to be. Almost every budgeting program or method or app that you find will be based on what the J suggested. And this works just fine for some people, but I'm going to talk about why it doesn't work actually for most of us. Why budgeting this way is not a very happy experience. So there's some problems with it, and none of them are related to anything that you or I did wrong.
No.
So what are some of the problems with a typical budget? First of all, a month is just too long. We've all had the top ramen week because our money didn't last as long as we thought it would, right? Or maybe it turns into a credit card week. Sometimes you're not even near the end of the month before those envelopes or categories are empty. There's just too much that happens in 1 month. Can you even remember what you were doing this day last month? January 24th? Can you even remember? I don't know. To me, it's too long. And the typical month that we plan for never actually happens. Some kid always has a birthday party that they end up having to go to, right? So life is crazy and unpredictable, and that is not going to change anytime soon. So month is too long. Second of all, there's too many categories. If you've done a budget like this, have any of you done a budget like this? And if so, how many categories did you have? Rough estimate.
Yeah, so put in the chat how many categories you tried to use.
I guess nobody mentioned that they've tried an envelope system, so maybe you have.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, if you haven't tried one, that's okay.
Oh, okay. Brian has sometimes up to 20-ish.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Not sure if you haven't done one.
6 to 8, that's not too bad.
Nice.
Some programs that we've seen online have
only 5.
Wow. Some of them have like 30 or 40 or even more that you have to consider and plan out to the penny. Mm-hmm. That's a lot of work. Even 5 or 6 or 8, 20, that's a lot of work. And it's a lot of work at the beginning of every single month to figure it all out. Then it's a lot of work throughout the month to keep track of all those details, right? And that work would be fine if it was helpful. But once again, how well can we predict down to the penny everything that's going to happen in the next month? You can't. And you're going to get most of it wrong. So this isn't a great system for someone who can't predict the future, but even if you can, it's still a lot of work.
Yeah, we've also got 6-ish and a dozen. Yeah.
Okay. So these first two issues combine to create a really bad relationship with ourselves and with our money. And so we call this the puppet master puppet relationship. So at the beginning of the month with a typical budget, you are the puppet master. You hold all the power, including your psychic abilities to know what's going to happen that month, right? And you create this perfect budget with all of these amounts down to the penny in all 40 categories. You have it color coded and planned out perfectly, and it's a beautiful piece of bullet journal art or spreadsheet or however you do it. But the problem is that for the rest of the month, you now have to change roles. Now you're the puppet. You no longer have any say in what should be happening because you're supposed to follow that very detailed plan that the puppet master laid out for you. So with every mistake you make or every even justifiable change, you see that puppet master shaking their head in disappointment because the puppet is not supposed to go off script, but you do because you have to. So it's a frustrating experience where you're fighting with yourself. And even though there's no way you could have predicted everything correctly at the beginning of the month, you're still trying to, and then you hold yourself up to that standard. So it's definitely a lose-lose situation. So this power struggle is a real problem. In fact, it might be the biggest problem because none of us like to be told what to do, especially with our money. So the last issue that I'm going to mention with a typical budget is that it makes trade-offs and consequences hard to see. So we deal with trade-off decisions every day. Because my money is limited, when I spend it on one thing, that means I can't buy something else. So for example, if I go to a restaurant and I have $5, I can decide to buy ice cream, but that means I can't buy the fries and soda. So that's a trade-off decision and my consequence. There isn't a right or wrong answer. It's just a choice. And at the moment, if I value ice cream more than fries and a soda, and that's what I buy, then that's fine. So I can make pretty good decisions when the trade-off and consequence are happening right now. Ice cream's way better than fries, so I'm a happy camper. That consequence is a good one, right? But it's a lot harder when we push that consequence piece way off into the future. We don't care about our future selves as much as we do our current selves. That's why we don't do lots of things we should do, right? Like eating right or exercising, because my enjoyment right now is worth a lot more than possible health problems 20 years from now. The trade-off decision and the consequences are very far apart. For example, I probably shouldn't have had the ice cream or the fries. So 20 years is obviously too long, but even the first of the month and the end of the month are really far apart. So it's very easy to spend all of my money right now on the things that I want without understanding that there will be a consequence for that choice at the end of the month. Logically, you know it's going to be an issue, but you still kick it off and hope that things will work out. Hopefully that makes sense. And again, it isn't your fault. We're all built like this. If you remember the marshmallow experiment where the kids have to wait. If they wait and not eat their marshmallow, then they'll get a second marshmallow. And they can't do it, right? Peter, did you have a question?
Or did you
or
just
was it an accidental hand raise? Okay, that's fine. You were just stretching. That's fine. So the problem is that typical budgets just don't help you deal with this very well. So we learned from the J that a month is too long for several reasons, and that too many categories is just too much work.
Yep. Okay, so we got the last poll question here. Let me go turn it on. It's going to be all the way on the bottom.
It's my favorite poll question.
Yeah. So yeah, you're going to have to scroll all the way down, and it's, why does the giraffe get to be the hero of our story? There's lots of options in there.
Also not a had to read the story to know.
Yeah, yep. Didn't have to read the story to know this one. So we've got giraffes are the tallest land animal. They sleep standing up.
Baby giraffes can walk within an hour of being born. A giraffe's legs are over 6 feet tall. Or all of the above.
Yeah. And I didn't put in Laura's favorite one.
I know. My favorite giraffe fact is that giraffes can kill a lion with one swift kick. It's been my favorite giraffe fact since I was in high school.
Okay. So
we've got
a lot of votes. That's good.
Votes.
Okay, we're going to end it.
Okay. Yeah. So giraffes are just awesome. All of the above and more. So how do we fix this then? How do we apply all the principles that we've talked about so far and fix all those issues that have been brought up? Well, in 2010, we were placed in a situation that helped us find a solution. So 3 years prior to that, we had filed for bankruptcy. And since then, we were trying to use that opportunity to be better at handling our money. We tried everything that we could think of, including all the ways that our animals in the story taught us, but nothing was working very well. So we were starting to believe that we were the problem. But near the end of 2010, Nigel was starting his first semester of grad school, and we only had student loans to live off of. We didn't have any other income. Nigel was going to school full time, and I was having our second baby, and I had a 4-year-old to stay at home with. So this was it. And we had our little chunk of loan money, and we knew it had to last us until the next time we got our loan money in January. So we were thinking, how do we make this work? And we decided to do something we hadn't done before. So this was our big moment that changed everything for us. We started by paying our rent for the whole semester, which was our only real fixed expense because it included all the utilities and stuff, which is nice when you're going to school that they do that for you. But then we divided what was left into weekly amounts. And we figured if we could stick to one weekly number every week until January, that we could make it. So I'm happy to say that we did make it, and that experience changed our lives. So after years of failure and shame and doubt, suddenly we were responsible, capable people who could make good financial decisions. And it was hard sometimes when we had to miss out on going out with friends, or we had to purchase things we needed instead of things that we wanted. But it was an incredible change that affected more than just our finances. It changed our self-esteem and how we saw ourselves. It gave us confidence in our choices because we suddenly were in control over our money instead of feeling like it was controlling us. So the solution we figured out is what we eventually called the Happy Giraffe Budget. We got everything down to just our income and our fixed expenses and a weekly allowance. So compared to a traditional budget, there are 2 big changes that made this work so well. The first thing is that instead of trying to estimate every penny to every possible category, if you start with only caring about income and fixed expenses, things get a lot easier. So when we were in school, like I said, that income was really easy because it was the student loans. And now, like if you have a salary, that can be pretty simple as well. If your income is not so consistent, then it does require some estimating, and we suggest just being very conservative with those numbers. But for most situations, you should have a basic idea of what this number already is. So you start with your income, and then your fixed expenses are your reoccurring bills, and they're the same way, right? In our situation at college, we just had to pay rent, and that was really easy to figure out a few months ahead. And most of us have bills like that are predictable. They happen on the same day every month, and they're usually for the same amount. So that's the first big change we figured out, that those 2 things are really easy to estimate, even when you're trying to look further ahead than just the next month. Mm-hmm. The second big idea was how to handle the rest of that budget. In our story, we paid our fixed expenses, and then everything that was left over, we divided into weeks. And that's how you handle everything else in your budget. It's really that simple. You just look forward, figure out your income, you take out your fixed expenses, even though you don't actually pay all of your bills right away like we did. That's okay. And then you just divide what's left into weeks, and you give yourself a weekly allowance. So we call it your happy money. And there's no other categories or measures or anything else to keep track of, just that one number. And we did talk about tracking with the elephant. Our budget isn't magic. There's no magic wand where you don't have to track anything at all. But what our budget does is just make it so much easier, like super easy. And week by week, you just figure out the best way to spend your money. And every week you get a new allowance. And that is the secret sauce that makes it all work. That is what fixes all the other issues that we've talked about.
Yeah.
So we're going to give you an example of how this works. We have a fictional person, Ryan. Let's see. With respect to income, how do you compute income when we're withholding for taxes? I withhold way more than I need.
Oh.
That's a you question.
I would have to figure that out. That's hard when you're trying to withhold for taxes at the same time. But yeah, hopefully you've done taxes in the past and you know kind of what that should be. And that's okay if you withhold more than you need. Like we said, we want you to be more conservative with whatever you put into this, because your whole budget is going to be based on that number.
Yeah. I don't know if hopefully that answered your question. If not, we can, okay, good. Okay. So here's our example. So we're going to take this fictional person, Ryan, and we're going to look forward 24 months. So like we said, typical budget looks forward 1 month, right? But we suggest looking forward 2 years because it helps see that bigger picture, especially because it gives you time for payments that pop up less often, like Amazon Prime or car insurance or your income tax. That's a great example. Ryan's income is $1,500 every 2 weeks. That's his, not income, but take home.
Take home,
right?
Yeah.
Okay. So he takes home $1,500 every 2 weeks, and that is $78,000 for the next 2 years. Plus, he has $2,000 in the bank right now. So that gives him $80,000 to work with. That's going to be his starting number. His fixed expenses add up to $46,200 for the next 2 years. So that's all of his bills, whether they're due monthly or once a year. That's all of his bills in total. So we're going to subtract all of those fixed expenses first. So income minus fixed is $33,800. That's left to handle everything else. Then he's going to divide that into his weeks, and he ends up with $325 to spend. And that's it. That's the whole process, what it looks like to create an entire budget. And you're set and super simple. So now Ryan just has to manage that weekly money, and then he knows that he's good for the next 2 years. Everything else is covered. He just has to focus on not going over that weekly amount. He doesn't have to worry anything else about month to month. There's no other categories to track. It's just really simple and effective. So we actually have a free spreadsheet, and we're going to show you an app also that we use. We have those on our website, and we're going to show you those in just a minute. But first I want to explain why this is so effective. So if you'll just bear with me a couple more minutes, I just want to tell you how this fixes so many of those issues that we have with that typical budget. So in the chat, if we'll do this little exercise, I want you to write down all the different hats that you wear in your life, all the different positions, or at least a few of them. If you're a mom, that's rude of me. I shouldn't say if you're a mom, you'll have like 100, but dads have them too. All people have all the hats, but I guess it's just my personal experience. I got a lot of hats. So if you'll put those in the chat. My daughter makes our slides for us, and mom, daughter, sister, wife, all of those have like 800 hats underneath each one, right? My daughter is, like I said, she's the one that made the slides. So she gave us a couple examples of a few of my hats. Dad, father, employee, business owner, ecclesiastical leader, volunteer, friend, coach. Yeah, Brian, you didn't include eating on there. You are a professional eater. Dad, ex-husband, managing attorney, Buddhist practitioner. That's cool.
Pickleball players, love pickleball.
Musician, activist.
Nice.
So feel free to keep going. But the point is that we all have a lot of hats, right? The Happy Giraffe Budget wears 2 hats. It has a long-term planning hat and a short-term managing hat. Mel threw up some more up there.
Ooh, accountant. Nice.
These are cool. Can I just throw in there really fast that you guys have been our best class with responses and chat? Like, this has been awesome. So good job to you. You're good class takers. You can add that to your list of hats. So sorry, I got distracted. Okay, so our Happy Giraffe Budget wears 2 hats, right? So when we're focused on the long-term hat, we're thinking about our future. We're looking at our bills. Do we want to get rid of Hulu or Netflix? You're thinking about savings. How much should we put in an emergency fund? Or how much should I put in my 401k? You're thinking of paying off debt, or how much you can afford to put towards getting it all paid off. So this is where you're making big decisions that affect the direction and projection of your financial life. When we're wearing our short-term hat, we're thinking about all the day-to-day stuff: gas for the car, groceries, what kids' activities, eating out, clothes. It's a lot to consider, right? So if a budget only has one of these hats, it's not a good budget. If you only wear one of the hats that you wrote on your list and ignore the rest of those hats indefinitely, you're not going to be a good you, right? That's why.
If Peter was just a retiree, that wouldn't go well. Or if Jason just did disc golf, I would never get to play pickleball with him.
Okay. You have a lot of pickleball friends on here, don't you?
We do.
And we know if you just do pickleball, you at least have an angry wife at home. Okay. So let me rewind. Okay. So you're not going to be a good you if you only focus on one of your hats. And that's why sometimes other budgets don't work, because they just focus on one of those extremes of either only saving and only worrying about long-term goals. Because then our day-to-day stuff suffers, right? And so you don't want to stick with it. Or if it just focuses on what you want right now, it doesn't give you that security of being prepared for the future. So with the Happy Giraffe Budget, you keep these 2 things in balance. There's still a little tension between your roles as long-term and short-term, because we don't have an unlimited amount of money. But now you always have some level of power to make decisions, which is a happier, healthier relationship with yourself and with your money, like we said. There's lots of other reasons this method of doing things works so well. So I could go more into why weekly instead of monthly is such a big deal. I could go more into how it helps you control your money instead of your money controlling you. There's more flexibility. It helps you see those trade-off choices and the consequences that we talked about earlier in a new way. It helps you and your spouse work better together. If you're on a joint budget, like that's a big deal if you're married. I don't have time to dive into all of them right now because we would like you to have a Saturday. But it really is amazing. And I completely understand if you're skeptical at this moment, that's okay. Just know that I have lived on this budget for over 13 years. through many different life and financial situations, and it has worked through all of that. So Nigel really wants to show you his spreadsheet. It's his little baby. And don't do this right now, but it is on our website for free. You can download it there, and he'll show you how to do that. So I'm going to let him take over.
Yep. So I need to start though with why we need the spreadsheet. So in our story earlier when we were going to school, we talked about living off student loans, and we created this idea for how to budget differently then. So at that time, we had all of the money sitting in our bank account on the very first day of our budget. And for most of us, there's a thing called cash flow that's an issue, because there's a constant back and forth of money going in and going out. So if I have a mortgage payment due on the first and I don't get paid until the second, that can be a problem. So earlier when we mentioned that you can look forward 2 years, income minus fixed expenses, divide what's left into weeks, that only works if you have all of your money available on day one, and that's probably not your situation. So I'm going to go into the spreadsheet and show you how to deal with all of this and fix this cash flow issue. That's why it exists. And it helps you find a weekly allowance that works for you and your specific situation. Again, this is different than how most budgets will use a spreadsheet. They're usually looking at the next month and creating all the categories and then tracking it all throughout the month. We're not doing any of that. We're just solving this cash flow issue. So we're going to enter in some information in the spreadsheet, and it'll help fix the timing of everything. So let me let me show you the website here real quick. If you go into happygiraffe.org, don't do it right now. I'll walk you through it, but you can do this later. It's the Learn section. Is that right?
No.
Oh, this one has the classes. So if I go too fast on any of this, you can watch these again. They're up on YouTube. So that's in the Live section. That one has, there it is. So that one has their budgeting spreadsheet, and you can just download that for free. And then we have a debt payoff one too. It just helps you organize that better. So I've already got one downloaded. I'm going to open that up.
Also, if spreadsheet is a swear word to you or makes you have swear words, don't worry. This is like super user friendly. Even I could do it, and I didn't know pivot tables didn't pivot. So if that means anything to you, if it doesn't mean anything to you, then you know that.
Yep, it'll be okay.
You're good.
Okay, so we're going to follow these little tabs along the bottom here. If you don't use Excel a lot, you might not even know that these tabs exist. But so right along the bottom here, we're going to start with the first one. It's called period. So this first one is just to start to set what day of the week your budget starts on, and then how far you're going to look forward. So right here, I just put in a Monday. It's easy to start your budget on a Monday, just because that's a simple thing to do. But you can have it started on any day of the week that works for you.
Yeah, we actually start our budgets on Wednesdays because it gives me money for my weekend instead of having my weekend be at the end of my budget week, so that I still have money for Saturday night pizza or date night or whatever. Yep. So once again, I share the life hacks that I told you I would not be doing. But anytime, Sunday to Monday or Sunday to Saturday or Monday to Sunday, whatever works for you works. Yep.
Yeah. So just put whatever day that is works for you. Just put that in here. And then we're going to put 104 in here because that's 2 years. You can also change the currency. We have people all over the world that download this spreadsheet. I've been amazed at how many people there are. We get about 150 people a day from the Philippines, from Africa, all over the place. It's amazing. So we've added in some other currency symbols just to make it more comfortable. But we're going to leave it on dollar for this one. So that's all you do in this tab. You're just setting up, when does my budget start, on what day of the week, and how far does it look forward. So then we can move on to our income. So that's the next tab along the bottom here. So this is where we're telling the spreadsheet, how much do I have to work with?
Oh, Mel's from Australia.
Oh, nice.
That's awesome.
Look at that. See? That's amazing. And it's amazing you made it to this call. The time zone difference must be huge by that far. So yeah, if you can tell us how big the time zone difference is. I don't know. It's 10:25 here in the morning.
3:25 a.m. Oh my gosh, bless your heart, Mel.
Okay, so for this one, we are going through, there's a place to put in what's in your bank account right now. So this is to help you pay the bills that you already have. So like if your mortgage is due tomorrow, I hope you have something in your bank account ready to cover that. But don't include savings or any of those other things. This is just for your day-to-day living. And then right here, you can enter in all your income sources, just give it a name, and then you can do how frequently that happens. So we've got weekly, every other week, lots of different options here. And then how much you actually take home. Like Peter had mentioned before, if you work off the amount before you pay all the taxes and stuff, it's not going to be very helpful. So we're going to go with after that, and then the next time you get paid.
Well, he could set up his taxes as an expense later.
You could, yes.
So hold that thought, Peter.
Yes.
But generally speaking, that would be what you have to work with.
Yeah. So again, on this tab, we're guessing low if we can, because like we said, that your whole budget's based on this. And it is a lot easier to adjust when you make more money than you expected versus when you make less than expected. So along that same line of thinking, don't include any bonuses or tax returns that might not actually happen. Let those be happy surprises instead of required expectations.
Would they consider only the excess over that amount?
Minimum dollar amount. Yes.
You would.
Right. So yeah, if you want like a $1,500 buffer, then don't include that at all in your bank balance or anything else. Mm-hmm. And then the spreadsheet won't even know that it exists. And everything will assume that's your zero line. Yep, that's a great idea. We actually do that too. We have a buffer in there. It's a good idea. So that's all there is for this step. This is just letting you know, or letting the spreadsheet know how much money you have to work with and what the timing of that income is going to be. Because again, we're trying to fix that cash flow issue. So we're going to start with the income, figure out that timing. Next, we're going to move on to the fixed expenses along the bottom here. And this one's going to be the hardest part, but don't worry. These are bills that you pay every month or periodically that you already know about. They're the same every time, so it shouldn't be too bad. See, sometimes budgeting can be fun. If it looks easier, hopefully it does. So, and this one, we've got monthly. That's a good way to start out. We've got things like you just put a description, the amount, and then what day of the month that payment is going to come out of your bank account. You can see here that we added in savings. That doesn't have to be in here, but if you can afford it, it's a good idea. We talked about the chipmunk earlier. Savings is definitely important. So the way that works for this is that it's just saying I'm going to take money from my checking, move it over to savings. I'm not actually spending that money. I'm just moving it into a different account. So it shows up as an expense here, but don't worry, you still get to keep the money.
Just so you know, sorry, I was getting caught up on the savings thought. So the benefit of utilizing Nigel's nerdiness, Excel mastery, is that you can easily play with these numbers later to see exactly what your income can allow. So don't worry that everything is perfectly mathed out right now, because you'll be able to make adjustments later. Like for your savings, for example, you'll be able to change that and see exactly what you can afford.
Yep.
I wish my auto insurance was $400 a year.
I do too. Yeah, we put these numbers in like 5 years ago, and things have gone crazy since then.
Yeah. The teenagers are killer.
Yeah, not just with inflation, but with teenagers, man. Okay, so also if you have something like utilities that fluctuate a little bit, you can either guess on the high end so that you know they're covered, and there's also some utility companies you can work with them and find like a steady monthly amount that'll make this easier to estimate. So on the income side, when we guess, we wanted to guess low. Here on the expenses side, when we guess, we want to guess on the high side, because again, it's a lot easier to guess high and then have it come in a little bit lower, and then you can just have that as a happy surprise. Over here in the yearly section, that's where you can put things that happen once a year. These are the ones that are easy to forget in a normal budget, a typical budget. Car insurance, registration. We put Christmas in here because that's a big expense for us that comes up once a year, and it's helpful to put in something like that. So with this budget, we're just saying on December 1st, I want to be able to spend $700 on Christmas presents, and just please have that available and ready at the same time. So the spreadsheet will figure all of that out for you. And that's why you need to put all of that in. But it does help to put in some of those things that you know are going to happen that are coming up. The one-time section, you probably won't use these very much. It's helpful if you have something really specific that you know is only going to happen once, and it's coming up pretty soon, and you just want to make sure it's in your budget. But normally, we don't use this one very often. And then the last one way over here is other. So this is for this is for all of the things that didn't fit into the other sections. So if you give money to charity each time you get paid, you can put that in here, and then just line up the frequency date with the start date of your paychecks. So you just put the description, the amount, and then there's lots of different options for the frequencies, and then you just put a start date. Like I said, if you line that up with your paychecks, then you can line those up with whenever you're giving to charity. You don't have to put in an end date, but like on this one, I did, because I know that for pest control on October 25th, that's the last time I'm going to pay that bill. And then after that, I'm not paying it anymore. So it's just as an example of what that would look like. So if you know there's something you're going to cancel soon, you can just put it in there, put an end date. It just makes it easier. So this is all of your fixed expenses then. This should be everything that you know about ahead of time. Again, it is a little harder, but you only have to do it once. Once it's in here, you're good, and you can keep on going. So this helps because now the spreadsheet knows the timing of your income, and it knows the timing of all of your expenses.
Yeah, and anything that is steady can be put into that fixed expenses. So like when our youngest was a baby, we had diapers and wipes. That was a fixed expense because we knew that every month we were going to go to Costco and spend that $50 on that or whatever. So we just put it in there so that we didn't have to worry about it in our weekly allowance, because that's called our happy money, and diapers purchasing is not happy. So anything like that, like Nigel's sister uses this, and she puts in her like protein shake powder that she knows she's going to buy every single month or whatever.
Yep. So yeah, you can customize this to you. So yeah, talking about happy money, that's what we're going to move on to next. That's the next tab down here. Okay, so this one's got a lot on it at first, but it's pretty simple. So up at the top, you can see that in this fictional example, this isn't the same as the Ryan example we used earlier. It's a different, so don't let the numbers confuse you. So this new person, they're going to have over the next 2 years, $92,500 of income to work with, and almost $60,000 of expenses. They've got $32,510 of spendable money. Divide that into weeks, and they're going to have $312.60.
And the spreadsheet does all that part for you. That's not something you have to type in.
Yep, all of those numbers up there just show up for you. It's nothing you have to do. But you do need to notice that says max weekly allowance, or max allowance up there. And the reason is that there's also an actual weekly allowance down here. So if I were to put that $312.60 in there and say that's what I'm actually going to try to spend, you see that all these turn red, and that's bad. My account's going to go negative. My bank balance is going to go negative. I'm spending negative. There's bad things happening. And to see this, I'm going to go over to the next tab, which is the cash flow chart. So this one's pretty amazing because it shows you everything that's happening for the next 2 years, because we looked forward 2 years on the spreadsheet, and it shows you day by day what your financial situation is going to look like. You can see your income coming in, and then your expenses coming out, and your income, expenses. And actually, if you wanted to spend $312.60, you would be probably fine from April all the way until January. And suddenly in January, you're not going to have enough money for one of your bills. You're going to try to pay your mortgage or whatever it is, and the money's not going to be in your account. It's going to be there the next day, but it won't be there when you need it. So this is why the whole spreadsheet exists. It's to help figure out this cash flow thing. We don't want these negative things happening.
Which is also why the monthly budget doesn't work when you just look forward 1 month, because you will have those moments where you don't have enough money.
Yeah.
From,
Yep.
sorry.
Just from like those 6-month expenses or things like that. This helps you see all of that all in one. So if we come back over to our Happy Money, one of the things people might think at first is, well, if I can't use my maximum, let me try to use something super small. So let's put in $100 a week, and all of these turn green. This looks great. We're never going to go negative. And then we're going to go over here to the cash flow chart and see what that looks like. And whoa, it skyrockets. It goes up to over $20,000 at the end of 2 years. So this looks good at first, but in this case, this is tens of thousands of dollars sitting in your bank account that don't have a purpose. So that isn't good budgeting either. We want to tell our money what to do. So in reality, we want this chart to be a little more straight across. So if we go back over to our Happy Money tab again, we're going to do the $300. I think is what I had before. There we go. Okay, so our bank account never goes negative. We get down to $10, which is a little scary, and that's why, Peter, that's a good idea to have that budget, the buffer in there. Just if that scares you, that's okay. And then we're never going to go under. So if we look, you can see here, bumping along, and it goes up and down, and this is amazing. This is great. Like I said, it gets a little scary here, but you're going to be okay. It's all mapped out for you. You're going to be just fine. As long as you stay within your Happy Money, that $300 a week, not going to have any problems. So in order to tell if that graph is kind of straight across, that's what this number here does, the don't go broke number. This will tell you if you're spending on average too much. So you want this to be probably a little positive. 465 is good. I think before, when we had 100 in there, what was that? 204? Yeah, your graph is going way up. You don't want 204 is way too much to have in there. So at this point, when you're doing this for yourself, you're probably going to want to go back and forth between some of those fixed expenses like savings or paying off debt, and then this tab where you can just enter in a different weekly allowance and just try to play with that and find something that's going to work for you. And you can use that cash flow chart just as a cool visual to help see how that's working out. So in this example, that $300, that's probably the most I can do in real life. That gets me everything I need. Just as another life hack, I guess, warning, some people, when they try to do this budget at first, they try to go too low on the weekly allowance because it feels like a big number. If you're used to budgeting monthly and having all those different categories, $300 is going to feel like a lot in one bucket. But in reality, it's just a weekly bucket, and that needs to cover a lot. It needs to cover all of your groceries, gas, clothing, eating out, everything that you didn't put in your fixed expenses. This has to cover that. So if you're estimating, estimate on the high end, because at the end of the week, that money doesn't go away. You can just move that over to savings or do whatever you want with it. That's okay. But it's just easier to start out a little higher on this if you can.
Or you can let it roll over.
Yep.
That's another option. That's what we used to do when we were really poor.
Yeah.
Because it usually was like $2. So we would just let it roll over, and that's a little happier the next week.
Yep.
Little bonus fry.
Yeah. So again, this is different than other budgeting spreadsheets that you might have used before. You're not planning out all of your categories, or you don't even enter in any of your actuals as you go through everything on this. It's just to help you find that Happy Money amount and make sure that the timing of all of your bills and your income works out. So once you've figured this out, you can actually set all of your bills to auto pay, and you don't even need to look at the spreadsheet again for 6 months to a year. That one weekly number, this $300 here in this case, that's the only number you need to pay attention to. So hopefully that makes it really simple for you. And again, there's the video on YouTube. If I went too fast or if you got confused, if you want to see it again, that's okay.
Yeah, and just to throw this out there really fast, this is like when he says you're only going to focus on that $300 or that weekly allowance, you have to learn to not look at your bank account, because your bank account, your spreadsheet has done all the math for you, but your bank account is going to look huge at some points because like, especially like November 29th, your budget has put all of that money saved up throughout the year for that $700 to come out on December 1st.
Oh yeah.
So if you're just like, oh, I've got $500 in my account, then suddenly you're not going to have that money to pay that bill in December. Hopefully that makes sense. So you have to learn not to look at your bank account because it looks amazing.
Sometimes.
Sometimes. So you're just going to focus on that weekly allowance number. And so we need a good way to track that number, right? And pay attention to it.
Yeah.
We're done with the spreadsheet. We don't look at that again, like Nigel said. So in reality, you can track your happy money throughout the week however you want and whatever's the most comfortable for you. There was a point where we just had like this little dry erase whiteboard thing on our fridge, and we would just change it every time we spent money, or like at the end of the night or whatever. Or we've had friends that have like a printed out piece of paper where they would put it in their nightstand so that before they'd go to bed, they would write down all their expenses. Whatever works for you is great. We've just used the same app for the last probably six or 7 years, maybe 7 now.
Yeah.
So we're going to show you what we use, but like I said, anything you want to use, it's not like we get a kickback from promoting this app or anything. We're just showing you what has worked best for us.
Yeah. So yeah, Jason, you also for doing auto pay, we actually do it all out of the same checking account. We only have a checking account and a savings, and we just trust that the spreadsheet's done everything for us because we depended on it for 13 years and it's worked great. But you could also do your Happy Money in a separate account if you want. That's how we have Laura's mom set up. She has one account for all of her bills and then a separate account for all of her Happy Money. And there's just an automatic transfer every week. It just gives her Happy Money. So that also works. Either way is fine.
Yeah.
For the Good Budget app, though, let me show that to you. So that is on goodbudget.com. And again, we don't get anything for this, but we just like it. It's worked well for us. It works on Apple and Android, and you can even be on separate ones at the same time. As long as it's only for 2 people, it works really well. The other person gets updated right away, and it's nice. The app itself is based off the envelope budgeting system like we talked about before, but we're only going to have one envelope. It's just your Happy Money, so it makes it a little bit easier. So I'm going to show you how to set that up in the online version. The setup is a little confusing because, like I said, it's made to do a lot more. And if you do that online, the whole setup thing, it's a little bit easier. But for you would just go to sign up over here, and then type in your email, password. Like we said, we suggest the free plan. That's enough for everything we want to do. And so say that you're not a robot and get started. But I already have a login to show you. Let's see, log in there. Okay, so when you first get into it, this is what it's going to look like. It's going to have a little envelope for your groceries, another one for gas, another one for savings. And like I said, we're going to be doing this differently from what they designed it. So we're just going to go in and delete all of these. So you go to add, edit.
So the spreadsheet isn't a tracker. The spreadsheet is just that basically like calculator to figure out what you're going to be able to spend.
Yep. It's just to help you figure out that cash flow and figure out a weekly allowance that does work, and you're sure it's going to work. So yeah, now that we have that weekly allowance, we have to track it every day as we go through. We're going to track it in this instead. And like you said, you don't have to use this. You can use whatever you want. This has just been something that's worked for us. So to get this set up, we're going to go to add, edit right here. And we're just going to delete these envelopes because we don't need any of them. Delete this one down here.
By clicking on those circle X's.
Yeah, just click those little X's. And then go to this monthly thing and switch that to weekly, because our budget is going to be weekly. And we're actually going to start our budget on a Monday, because that's what we did on the spreadsheet. Then we're going to click add right here. And we're going to add, I'm going to call it Happy Money.
And he does have a video for this too if he's going too fast. So
yep,
no stressing there.
Yeah. So we're just going to say Happy Money. We're going to put $300. Say that's what it should have in it, because that's what we figured out on the spreadsheet would work. And leave everything else blank and save changes. And again, like I said, you're going to get some of these. We don't use all the different things that this app can do. So just hit no thanks right here. So now we have an envelope that should have $300 in it, but it's empty. It's just a gray bar right now. So now we need to fill the envelope. So we're going to go up here to fill envelopes. And new income, we're going to do $300. We're going to say that happens. That's our Happy Money that's given it to us. And we're going to schedule this. We're going to schedule this to happen every week. So this way, like I said, it's all going to be automated so that you just get the money and you don't have to worry about it in this app. It's not physically connected to your bank account, but it's just going to fill it for you in the app, which is nice. So once you set this up, you also have to put it into your envelope. It's a two-step for some reason. Then it fills it all up, and then hit save. And now you can see that it's all green. It's full for this week. We're ready to go. And next week, it's already set up. It's scheduled to put in another $300 next Monday. So the setup, like I said, right here is a little confusing. But once it's done, you don't have to do this part anymore. Normally, as you go through your day-to-day, if you're on the app or whatever, you would just go to add transaction. So let's say I was just at Walmart. And I just spent $50. And you can even do this. It's pretty quick on your phone. You can do it while the checkout's happening.
Yeah, I just do it while the credit card is processing.
Yeah.
Just type it in super fast.
And you can put in some notes about what you bought if you want, and then hit save. And now I've only got $250 left for the rest of this week. And you can see that Walmart's sitting in there. And so that updates on both of our phones almost right away. So that lets the other person know I spent $50 and you can't spend it now. It's just helpful to keep each other on the same page. And like I said, you can put notes in there to just so that they know what you bought. But it's pretty easy to use. So let's see. That's pretty much how the app works. That's pretty much all there is to it. And again, like Laura said, there's a video on the website. If I went too fast, you can watch it again. I did a pretty good job on the video, just making it clear and simple. And now showing it live is a little scarier. Yes, it probably was,
Jason.
Yes. I don't know from Walmart.
Yeah, that's true.
I think I have to go to Amazon to get. But yeah. So again, this is all you have to do. This is how you track it as you go throughout the week. Again, we've liked this just because it updates really quickly, and it's been a nice tool for us. But you can use whatever works for you. That's totally fine.
Yep. So those are the two things you need to make this budget work. Just the spreadsheet to figure out what that Happy Money number is, and then a way to track it, however that works for you.
Yep.
Whatever works best.
Okay. That's all you need. That's it. So we'd love to hear your feedback about how this class went. So I'm going to paste this link in the chat. So if you can click on that, you don't have to fill out the form right now, but click on it because the chat goes away after we close this out. But that is pretty much everything. And we just like to hear what your thoughts were about how we taught it. If we need to change something to make it more understandable, just want your feedback. So thank you again for giving us a chance to talk about our experiences, share some of what we learned with you. I know it takes a lot to come and listen about budgeting for an hour and a half, It's been almost the whole time.
Especially at 3:30 in the morning.
Oh yeah.
You're awesome.
I know budgeting isn't usually an exciting topic, but like Peter said, I hope it gave you a little more hope than what you had before. If you have had a hard time budgeting in the past, I hope that you feel a little bit more optimistic now, because there really is a happier and easier way to manage your finances. This budgeting system has changed our life, and I hope it will change yours as well. So thank you.
Yeah, and perfect time. Peter has a question. Before we go, we are happy to answer any questions that you have. If you have like personalized questions, you're welcome to email Nigel later if that works better for you. He's always happy to chat. But yeah, general questions, we are so happy to answer. So that's Nigel's email address, and then you can answer Peter's question.
Yep. Oh, we use software from Mint. Oh, is Mint even still around? I thought they just closed down.
Awesome, Mel. Thanks for being on the call.
Yeah. So as far as I know, Mint, and there's several others that hold all of your passwords. I know I use Quicken for some of the stuff that I do, and yep, that holds all of your passwords, and it's usually got a lot of security around it. So they're usually pretty safe, at least from my experience.
We just don't like paying for stuff.
We don't.
So.
Yeah.
We don't use them personally because, man,
yeah,
we're cheap, which is why we offer this for free. So it helps all of you that we are cheap.
So yeah, again, if you got any other questions,
Oh, Peter, you're awesome.
I'm glad you still came, even though you were dreading it. That's good. And yeah, Jason, I know I know your wife at least read some of the book. Hopefully this helps condense it down a little bit. So yeah, if you have any other questions, just email me. I'm happy to go through it. It's all free. I'm not going to charge you just to teach you how to budget. It's okay. That's why we set up our nonprofit for this.
Yep. If that's it, you're welcome to end your side of the call whenever you want. One question that we have had in past classes was if we include our groceries in our Happy Money.
Oh yeah.
And we do, just because that's kind of where I'm at, is I want, if I want to spend more on a nicer dinner one week instead of eating out, then I just figure it all kind of balances out. We've been at points in our lives where we have had groceries as a fixed expense because I knew that I needed to stick within that amount.
Yeah.
So it's just a little more restrictive that way. I like the freedom that it has when it's in Happy Money, but you can do it either way.
Yep. Okay. Yeah, go get some sleep and have a good weekend. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.